have that discussion right here. We're going to talk about the taxi hailing services during COVID-19, innovations around travel, and who else is best to speak about this, if not the Bolt national, the country manager for Bolt, that is Mr. Ola Akinusi. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Brian, for having me.
First of all, could you paint for us a picture of what the taxi hailing services have looked like in the advent of COVID-19?
Oh, well, I think I would start by saying before the advent of the pandemic, I would say the sector and, of course, the different operators within the sector have continued to innovate, continue to basically run a business that allows them to provide valuable service to consumers across Kenya. Then with the advent of the pandemic, there have been quite some significant hits that the sector has had that has led to a huge drop in business activities within the sector. I mean, of course, this is due to the fact that there have been so many rules, so many guidelines around restrictions to movement, restrictions to social gatherings and all of that. So this definitely has affected the sector quite a lot, and a number of operators within the sector have made or taken different steps around how to circumvent or how to basically continue to run a business even during the hard times.
Fair enough. You have hinted about, trying to adapt to the situation. So what are some of the methods that you guys came up with to adapt to the adverse effects of COVID-19 on travel, on commuter transport, and the whole taxi hailing services?
Okay. Well, I can speak very confidently about Bolt to say that what part of what we had done, or the beginning of what we had done as a reaction towards the pandemic or the effects of the pandemic, was to take a step back and try to understand clearly the different changes that have come to be from a consumer behavior perspective, right? So it's from us being able to understand the difference or the changes in consumer behavior that has led us to tap into our innovation, to tap into the technology we have on board in creating different new solutions or services that would better serve consumers, especially in this kind of times, and directly meet the changing behavior or the changing purchasing powers of consumers.
Great. You've talked about innovations, and could you please tell us what are some of the innovations you people have been able to come up with to support the travel sector, particularly now?
Okay, so I think for one, it's important to note that since the pandemic struck here in Kenya, we've seen a situation where there's been so much emphasis on public health, safety, and all of that. So what we have done as a business first is to ensure that we keep safety. Of course, we've been doing this before now, but we also doubled down on ensuring that safety and the compliance to public health, safety, and guidelines were a paramount part of our entire business processes. In doing that, for instance, we had launched a category called Bolt Protect, where we were able to offer, on one side, drivers the opportunity to still be able to move around in a safe and secure manner, and then also ensure that this particular Bolt Protect category allows consumers or allows passengers, customers, especially those that work within the essential services sector, to be able to move around as well. How we were able to do that was to install a protective film between the driver cabin and the passenger cabin at the back to limit the transmission of fluid, transmission of airflow, and anything that could potentially create a community infection kind of scenario. Beyond that, we also, of course, put in place a number of other measures, including communication of the different public health safety guidelines that are put out to the public or to the community by the Ministry of Health, by the World Health Organization, in ensuring that we keep disseminating this information to everybody within our community as a move towards joining the government in stamping out the pandemic from Kenya, amongst a number of other initiatives that we have taken over the couple months.
Fair enough. Yeah. So with all those put in place, how was the reception by your clients? How did they receive it? Were they sort of reluctant to take all those measures? Were they reluctant to pick up, and did that affect bookings or what?
Yeah, okay, so there are two sides to this question. I think the first side is to mention that this was definitely a how do I put it? It was definitely a unique time for the world. Nobody necessarily prepared for this kind of situation. So we ensured that we were able to carry along both passengers, drivers, and the general community in these different activities or these different initiatives that we were putting in place. And because it was generally for the good of all, we have seen some good response from all of these different initiatives being received by both drivers and riders across the different times they were launched.
Even as COVID-19 continues to ravage the economic situation in the country, and not just in the country, but largely across the world in Africa, what are some of the future plans you people have to, support your business and, of course, support the consumers of your services?
Yeah, I think the important thing here is for us to continue on our strides towards being an innovative company, being a company that either entrenches existing products or services we have on the platform, or being able to launch new products and services that directly meet the needs of our immediate and broader community, right? In doing this, the first step for us is to ensure that we are very close in getting feedback and understanding the needs of this community. And then on the other side is we leverage the expertise and the knowledge we have in technology, in transportation and in logistics, in creating these solutions that directly meet these needs. And this is what we would definitely continue to do as a business as we move into 2021 and, of course, as we continue to operate as a business here in Kenya and across the world.
As you lay all those plans, remember there is still competition. So could you give us what the competitive environment looks like, especially with other entrants in the market, and of course, any other competition that you anticipate in the future? What is your competitive advantage against them?
Okay, so fundamentally, we believe that competition is necessary, and competition is a welcome situation in our line of business, as we believe that all of us combined together are hopefully aiming at solving or creating urban or modern means of transportation for people across the different markets we operate in. So we're open to this. Beyond that, of course, is the fact that we as a business would continue to stay above the rest, or we'll continue to ensure that we create new products and services that directly speak to current trends, that have impact or direct impact on the immediate markets that we serve. And these, for us, are part of the things that we see are going to keep us ahead of the competition and going to ensure that we continue to remain the preferred brand for people to move from one location to another location.
Being an FDI, could you paint for us a picture of what the regulatory environment looks like from the government's perspective, and equally from other players, the associations? Could you give us what has your experience in the regulatory environment, and of course with other associations?
Okay, regulation for us, as the conversation has started within the Kenyan market, is something that we see in a positive light, in the sense that if we trace back to about 6 years ago, or a bit shy of 10 years ago, the industry, the sector, the ride-hailing industry as a whole was either non-existent or it was marginally being operated in. But we have, over the years, grown into a place where there's conversation around regulation. So this tells one major fact, and that's there's significant growth that has happened in the industry over the years. Now, beyond that is the fact that as a business, we are pro-regulation, which for us means that we're open to regulation. We usually just ensure that we are able to remain active participants in the entire conversations around having regulations in place to help us create a scenario where the regulations that would eventually govern how business is done within our sector is beneficial to every stakeholder within the sector. So either the operators, where we represent or where we are a part of, the commuters like yourself, like myself, or our families and friends, or the car owners or drivers that decide to put their cars on the platform. So for us, we would always continue to ensure that we engage the government in bringing up regulations that will totally benefit all of these different stakeholders to ensure that there's a further growth of the sector and overall there's a growth of the Kenyan economy.
Fair enough. Thank you so much for speaking to us. That was the country's director of Bolt, the country manager rather of Bolt, Mr. Ola Akinusi, has been speaking to us exclusively about the situation of the taxi hailing business in the country, and of course the challenges that they have been able to experience and how they have navigated them. So And that's all we had for you today on Business Today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tomorrow we meet, same place, same time, to give you the latest from the world of business. My colleague Ali Manzu is coming up next with Mbiu ya KTN. Enjoy the rest of your viewing. My name is Brian Jodutieno.